it says, what are the optimal solution and the total profit contribution. See how this is worded wrong because they're calling the objective function as the optimal solution. However, both of them we should call as the objective as the optimal solution. So the values you have that they define once they ran all the sensitivity analysis report is that they will need 1,000 DRB frames and they're going to need 800 DRW frames to get a profit of 424,000. Therefore, the answer is 1,000 DRB and 800 DRW that is going to yield to 424,000. Okay. So now let's go to letter B. Another supplier offered to provide Digan Industries with an additional 500 pounds of steel alloy at $2 per pound. Should Digan purchase the additional pounds of steel alloy? Explain. Well, right here is really talking about constraint number one. If we go and look at your sensitivity analysis report and you look at all the allowable increases and decreases, you're going to notice that right here it says that they have 40,000 pounds of steel available, but they can actually increase that to up to 909. So you could have actually 40,000 plus 909.09. So you could go up to 40,909.09. Well, your dual value for your constraint number one is at $8.80. Well, if you do accept 500 pounds, right here, where's B? Another supply offer additional 500 pounds at $2 per pound. So think about it. At one additional unit, you're going to make an extra 8.80, right? Over here, right? So if you pay this person $2, if you pay this person $2, you're still making 6.80 for each unit. And now you're making more money because you're really adding, instead of only having 40,000, now you're going to have 40,500, which is within your allowable increase. Again, let me go down here. I know it sounds confusing. So your constraint one says you cannot have more. It has to be less or equals to, or they only have 40,000 available, so less or equal than 40,000. So then this supplier comes to you and says, hey, I have an additional 500 pounds and it's only going to cost you $2. Okay. So if you think about it, now you pay that supplier $2, right? So 8.80. You pay them $2, but you're still making 680. So really the 500 could yield another 3,400. Right? Because for each unit increase over here on the right hand side, you're gonna go up. We're talking about constraint one. Each unit increase over here increase your profit in 8.80. Now, even though you're paying $2 for the supplier, you're still making the 6.80. So by increasing those 500, you're making more money, and now you have more still available. So how could you answer B? So you could say, well, the dual value for constraint one, right, which is the amount of steel available, is 8.80, correct? Therefore, each additional pound of steel will increase increase profit by 8.80. At $2 per pound, Deegan should purchase the additional 500 pounds, correct? The upper limit on the right hand side range for constraint, oops, one, sorry, is approximately, or actually the upper limit on the right hand side is, yeah, approximately or about 40, we actually it's not dollars, it's, sorry, it's pounds, 40,999. So the dual value of 8.80 is applicable for an increase of as much as 909 pounds. Therefore, what I'm trying to, okay, let me do like this so I can fit it on here. And now I have to decrease the column of the row. Let's put 20 and then we can go from there. Okay, now I can just adjust it here. Sorry about that. Okay, so what it really means is since my allowable increase tells me I can go up to 909, then perfect, without changing my dual value, without having to develop all this again. Um, let's go for it. Actually, we could say, hey, do you actually have 400 more? And then if they say, well, I really have to do round numbers, so I have another 500 plus my 500, there's 1,000 pounds, and I'm still gonna charge the $2. So in that case, it is advisable that you develop a new sensitivity analysis to see how much would that affect, because now you're outside your range. So if you have 1,000, now you have 91 more available than you have that you have being allowed to increase. Okay, and that would be problem B. So please look at the values, look at the sensitivity report, and read this sentence to see if it makes sense. Now let's do C. So now it says that Deegan's consider using overtime to increase the available assembly time. What would you advise Deegan to do regarding this option? Explain. Be very careful to explain your answers. On your final exam, I am going to look for that. It's not just a matter of giving me numbers, it's a matter of also telling me why. So, right here, it's telling me that I have 96,000 assembly minutes. It's asking if I should consider overtime more than 96,000. Well, if we go to our sensitivity report and we look at constraint number three, right? Assembly minutes right here, constraint number three, and we look at our slack and surplus, we're gonna see that 1 and 2 are binding. That means we have used up all the resource, all the still available, all the manufacturing minutes. But right here it shows a 4,000. Why? Let's go ahead and calculate this. If I do this right here, 60 DRB plus 40 DRW, how much I'm gonna get? Well, if I have 1,000 of DRB and 800 of DRW, so let's do 60 times 1,000 plus 40 times 800. That's 92 minutes. So we actually have a surplus of 4,000 minutes. Why would we would possibly consider overtime? We already have an extra. We have people doing nothing for 4,000 minutes. Okay, therefore, so if you do 4,000 divided by 60, that's 66 hours that are unused. It's a surplus. So therefore, for question C, the answer would be um, constraint 3, which is assembling time, correct, has a slack, or you should really call a surplus, but they just call it slack because of the column. Let's put a surplus. I like it better. A surplus are 4,000 minutes or 66 hours, increasing the number of hours. So should not, so we should just say Tegan should not increase or should not consider overtime. I'm actually looking at the problem too. Should they consider? No, they should not consider overtime. Again, we have enough. We have more than enough. Okay. So now let's go to D. Because of increased competition, Diggins considered reducing the price of model DRB, which I believe I mentioned before, such that the new contribution to profit now is 175, $1.75 per unit. How would this change in price affect the optimal solution? Well, in order to learn the answer for that question, we're talking about a decrease, correct? So we really need to go ahead and calculate what are the allowables increase and decrease for our constraints, okay? So actually we're talking about the prices. So we are now decreasing 200 to 175, correct? So let's go ahead and calculate the range. I can decrease by 88,000 and I can increase by 24,000. So I can decrease, so it's 200 minus 88, 112, and then increase 200 plus 24. So your range of optimality is between 100 and 224. So right here, if you can go down to 112, and then they're considering reducing to 175, well, you are with the range, right? Because 112 is actually uh, quite lower than 175. Well, but they want to know the changing price. So how would you answer that? Let me go ahead and already make this bigger. So you could answer that the objective coefficient range for model DRB shows a lower limit of 112, right? Therefore, the optimal solution will not change. Or I shouldn't say the objective function, but right here they're asking in general. So I'm going to say their optimal solution will not change. However, the value of the optimal, or should I say, the optimal objective value will be, then we have to do now a little calculation. So right now, so we have 175 and 280. So now let's do 175 times how many? 1,000 and then 800, correct? So 175 times 1,000 plus 280 times 800. So that didn't change. So it's actually, so the optimal objective value will be 399. So actually, we would lose money. We would lose money. And then the last one, E, takes a little more calculations, but very basic math, nothing like we have done before. So now E is, let me move this up here, and let me move this up here. Okay, so now E is saying if the available manufacturing time, constraint 2 right here, is increased by 500 hours. Oh, we have minutes right here, right? will the dual value for the manufacturing time, which is constraint 2, change? Well, in order to define that, this, first of all, we have manufacturing times in minutes. So let's define how many minutes is 500 hours. So 500 times 60 minutes. So we have 30,000 minutes more. Okay? Well, another thing you need to do is to really define now how much you could possibly increase or decrease constraint number 2, correct? So we're talking about this value right here, right? Again, if the available manufacturing time is increased by 500 hours, will the dual value change or the constraint change? Well, so think about it. We have an increase, so we have 30 minutes, we are considering 30,000 minutes more, which will result really in 150,000 minutes, correct? Because we have 120 total. So let's put it here. And now we're considering adding 30. That's 150. Well, if we go to constraint number 2 over here, let's do the range. The minimum I can decrease would be by 7,114.28. Let's put 29. That's your allowable decrease, and your increase is going to be 120 plus 40,000. So your allowable increase, it's 160. If you add that, you're gonna have 150,000 minutes, and the maximum could be 160,000. So therefore, the dual value is really not gonna change because we're still within the range over here. So no change will happen here. Therefore, no change will happen on the value of the dual value. Again, constraint number 2 says it has 120,000 minutes right here. He allows me to decrease 5,714. He allows me to increase 40,000 minutes. So my highest point right here for this constraint is 160,000. Question is asking, if we increase by 500 hours, how would my dual value change? If 500 hours is 30,000 minutes, if we add the 30,000 minutes to the 120 available right here, we get 150. We're still within the range. Remember, the maximum is 160. Therefore, the dual value for constraint number 2 is not going to change. How could I put this in writing? Something like an increase of 500 hours or 30,000 minutes will result in 150,000 minutes of manufacturing time available, right? My allowable, or should I say, the allowable increase is 40,000 minutes, or I should say up to 160,000 minutes. I don't know why I'm not putting the comma on the other one. Therefore, the dual value of 60 cents per minute will not change. And now we have finished problem 17.